2026 is the year that literally everything changes for everyone, not just on an exaggeration, not fear-mongering, not trying to instill any density within anybody's experience. This year, with the planetary shifts that we have, is something that everybody, no matter where you are in the world, will be affected by. We haven't seen these things in almost 250 years, and this is not a time to take that lightly. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Hummingbird Arcana Podcast. I am Jo Hummingbird. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, Usui Reiki master, and tarot and oracle specialist. I'm here to help awaken you to your cosmic divinity, and today I want to give you an episode that gives you all of the different transits that we have to look out for in 2026. I know we're about, 3 weeks into the year already, but I've been integrating from 2025. I've been working really hard behind the scenes on some stuff for you guys, so forgive my lack of presence online recently, but I have also been cultivating all of the information on these different transits to give you guys this information and help you integrate the energies moving into the rest of this year. We haven't seen a sky like this in almost 250 years, so this isn't going to be a time where we have a lot of fun. This is going to be a time where we're doing a lot of heavy-hitting work. This is going to be a time where we have to do a lot of the right things for maybe some of us the first time in our lives, or maybe some of us, this is just a continuation of what we've already been living. And this is a time of karmic justice, the divine feminine reawakening, and, the power dynamics that are being played with back and forth and tossed around all over the place right now, the political playground of it all. There's so much going on, and the planets and the stars, the points in space, everything shows us what is happening, why, and when. So if you are interested in hearing about what is going on in 2026, then keep on listening to Hummingbird Arcana. Have you ever wanted to learn the language of the stars without breaking the bank and without forced AI integrations? Do you want to read your own natal chart with a professional astrologer and with lifetime recorded video replay access in case you can't attend or you forget because life just gets in the way? Then you should absolutely join us for round 3 of my live Astrology Basics Masterclass. Here we will deep dive into the world of astrology, which is the most ancient sister science to both Ayurveda and yoga, and it is considered the precursor to modern day astronomy. In Astrology Basics, we will cover a wide range of beginner astrology topics, such as the types of astrology, the 12 zodiac signs and houses, planets and luminaries, rulerships and modalities, and so much more. I'll even teach you how to read your own natal chart and give you a free virtual goodie bag just for attending. Early bird special discounted pricing is available now through midnight Central Standard Time on Monday, March 2nd. And if you use code ASTRO3 at checkout, I'll give you an extra 10% off of that early bird special discounted price. Grab your spot now because doors close at midnight Central Standard Time on Friday, March 6th. This is without a doubt my favorite masterclass to teach, so I am super excited for round 3, and I cannot wait to see you there. Now, back to Hummingbird Arcana. Okay, so this one's going to be kind of a long one. So strap in, get a drink, get a snack, get comfortable, and tune in. This is not going to be something that I try to fearmonger you with. This is not something that I'm going to try to control your free will or dictate your actions with. I am going to give you as much information as I possibly can for you to empower yourself with. This is not me telling you this amount of time between X planet and X sign is going to be hard or bad. This depends on what your chart looks like. This depends on what the planets in your chart are saying to each other. So if you want to see how 2026 is going to affect you personally, I'd highly recommend booking a reading with me. I'll leave all the information down below in the description for that. But let's go into what 2026 has for us. We start off by the end of this month, which is actually happening in 6 days from the time of recording. This is when we will have Neptune move into Aries on January 27th. So this is the first time. This is why I'm saying I'm trying not to fearmonger here, because we start off with a bang. This transit, Neptune and Aries, we have not seen this since the Civil War happened in the United States between the years of 1861 and 1867. This was a torrential time for morals, for ethics, for empathy, for being a person that is soft and sensitive, because Neptune it was just in Pisces. I mean, right now it's currently sitting at that 29 degree of Pisces. This is the anaretic degree. This is the final degree of all of the zodiac ever. It's not just the final degree of like Sag or Gemini or Taurus or what have you. This is the end of the end of the end when it comes for Neptune energy, and Neptune rules Pisces. This is the cosmic void. This is the ocean of existence. This is the drop in an ocean and an ocean in a drop. So this energy to be moving from this ethereal, kind of almost like a follower energy, love and light. The Neptune transiting through Pisces started happening in 2011, and that's when we saw the growth in influencer culture and people that were online as business moguls kind of losing their boundaries from a business standpoint and becoming more personal, more spiritual, more enlightened, more morally aligned to what is true and right for themselves, and then thusly people around them. We advanced a lot with mental health, and there was a lot of people actually paying attention to their emotions, whether or not they wanted to, because Neptune will blur the line between the boundaries, as always. So when Neptune goes into Aries, a Mars-ruled sign in the beginning of the zodiac, the 0 degree birth point of the entirety of the zodiac, this starts a brand new chapter for the entire world, for all of humanity as we know it right now. Because what happened during the Civil War, that was kind of a reset for the whole fucking world. Not in the sense that America controlled that, in the sense that at the time, there wasn't just the Civil War happening in the United States. There were wars happening all over the world, and the United States just happened to play a really big part in them. So here we are, all these years later, we have, let's see, it's 140, 150, 160 years later, something like that. So in that time, we have gone through a full Neptunian cycle of being able to see what we did wrong during that time, try to make advancements, try to build different systems, all to which, there's different varying degrees of success that had. Obviously, there's a lot of different disservice that has been done to underserved communities or minority groups such as myself or people of color or indigenous people, fill in the blank with whatever minority group the white man has classified you under that you are not a part of if you don't happen to fit under that category. We went through that whole Neptunian cycle trying to really not just advocate for ourselves, but advocate for each other and create new structures that actually outlast and stand the test of time against these patriarchal forces. And still somehow here we are 160 years later, and this is toppling down again because not just with Neptune, we also have, this moves into the next point, Saturn in Aries on February 13th, because that has been conjunct Neptune in Pisces damn near this whole time. They both move so slow out there in the solar system, and there's only one planet between them, which is Uranus, and that is on a completely different part of the solar system right now. Those two together, Saturn and Neptune, that is like grounding the dream, creating the structure for the discipline from the spiritual passion and really integrating that. And so when it moves into Aries, Saturn in Aries is not a friendly energy. This is not a time where it's like, okay, we're going to get to know our neighbors and we're going to be ourselves. This is Saturn in Aries. Saturn is patriarchy, corruption, but it's also the corporate energy. It's also CEO boss energy. It's discipline. It's karma. It's time. And in extreme cases, it's death. And so Aries being the like literal birth point, sort of the explosion, the big bang from the beginning of the cosmos. If you think of it like that, also being a Mars-ruled sign, the planet of war, conflict, destruction, peacekeeping, sex, psychology, certain things like that. This isn't a time where we're all about to be liberated. Saturn restricts whatever it touches, and Aries, being such a volatile energy and explosive, new, hard-to-contain energy, this isn't gearing up to be the best of times, especially when it is conjunct Neptune again at the beginning of Aries, because Neptune dissolves anything it touches. So Saturn being like the restrictions and the boundaries, Neptune's going to dissolve all that. There's also this like lack of boundaries from the government to be able to lead, because Aries is the leader in zodiac. It's the warrior. It's the person who has the ability to take charge because they are so ramped up with the pure energy of the cosmos without any restriction, and it's just pure Mars, pure Mars, pure Mars, pure Mars. So when Neptune and Saturn enter into this really fiery, chaotic ball of energy that is Aries. This isn't going to be a time where we're all kumbayaing and standing around the campfire saying love and light. That's what Neptune in Pisces and Saturn in Pisces did for us all. That's what that time period was for. So we could all heal, we could all come together, and we could all realize the truth. And then once this happens, this shift with both Neptune and Saturn into Aries, this is when we integrate the leadership skills, the community skills, the boundary setting, the ability to stand in the face of corruption and greed and, for lack of a better term, just fascism in general, to stand in the face of that with courage, despite the fact that it is emotionally challenging and feels like it could cost you your life. And most likely it might for some people, because it already has. And history shows us that it will continue to do so until somebody does the right thing. So those two transits are going to hold us accountable to doing the right thing. And then some, because then we lead into middle of February, again, after Saturn enters Aries on the 13th of February, we have the Aquarius new moon happening on February 17th. And this isn't just an Aquarius new moon. This is an annular solar eclipse with the new moon. And it is also the lunar new year. So this is like not the astrological new year, but this is the ancient times new year. This is what we based our calendar off of before the Gregorian calendar was invented. This is when we still gave months only 28 to 29 days, because that's how many days are in a lunar cycle. Then we would also have 13 months to compensate for everything else. You know, Gregorian calendar shrank down a month, split up those days unevenly between the rest of the months, and called it something else and separated us from nature. So with this Lunar New Year, especially with it being in the sign of Aquarius and the year of the horse in general, I'm not 100% familiar with Chinese medicine or the Chinese New Year, the Lunar New Year archetypes in that way. But from what I have read from my friends online who are into that, or who are reposting people who are experts in their content in that, I've seen that the year of the horse is just the perfect follow-up to the year of the snake that was 2025 and the first, month and a half of 2026. This is moving from the transformation and the shedding into the freedom and the pursuit of truth. This is, okay, I'm shedding the things that aren't in alignment, with my path, with my mission, with my truth, with my moral code, with what I stand for in the world. And then here comes the year of the horse. Okay, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to take it and run? Or are you going to sit there and stand around and wait for somebody to come ride you and take control of you? So this horse energy, on top of the Aquarius energy, because, Aquarius is the sign of the humanitarian, it's the innovator, it's the futurist. Excuse my cat meowing. She's an Aquarius, so she's confirming the energy for me for sure. This isn't fixing to be like again, like what I was mentioning with the Neptune and the Saturn conversation. This isn't a kumbaya, hold hands around a campfire. This is showing up, doing the right thing, doing the thing that you see the future vision for, that you want to hold the space for. And then when it comes to Aquarius as a moon energy, the moon is in detriment in Aquarius, because as we know, if you have learned anything from my Astro Basics Masterclass, which I am holding again on March 7th, if you are interested, link is in the description. But if you haven't taken that, or if you've listened to my Astrology Basics episode, or you have downloaded my Astro Cheat Sheets, then you will know that anytime we have a planet or a luminary in a sign that is ruled by its opposite planet or, energy archetype house, this is when we have it in a debility that is called detriment. Now, specifically with Aquarius, it's not the same detriment as having it in Capricorn, directly opposite Cancer, the moon's ruler, but because it is still Saturnian influence and it has the Uranus influence of it, so it's like this chaotic, unpredictable, unstable energy on top of this restrictive, boundaried, karmic, dense, time-controlled energy. It's not a fun combo. Aquarius is a humanitarian, but it's not the kind of humanitarian that's like, oh my God, this is so fun and easy. It's the humanitarian that says, I'm going to do the hard fucking work that nobody else wants to do, and I'm going to put my head down, shut the fuck up, and not care about it because it makes me money and it benefits everybody. I don't need to sit here and get, for the lack of a better term right now, forgive me, my dick sucked because I'm doing the hard work. I know the value of my service. I don't need someone to reflect that back to me. I feel it intrinsically with what I do. So Aquarius is also the opposite sign of Leo. This is the sign that rules the sun. And so Aquarius is immediately by default the sign where the sun is in detriment. And so for this to all to be happening, especially during Aquarius season, this is a time where the ego, the sun, the self, the characteristics, the awareness, the ability to have a personality, this is in detriment. This is dissolving, especially with the Neptune and Saturn energies sextiling this happening over in Aries. Aries and Aquarius will sextile each other, and this is happening at the beginning of Aries, all the way through, in the beginning of Aquarius, all the way through. So this isn't just a time where it's, okay, this is my morals and I stand for this and I'm going to make a social media post and I'm advocating. It's like, you're going to have to get your hands dirty. You're either going to have to go start permaculturing, go join a social network, go start a business, go lead a social movement, do something that actually shows the integrity behind what you stand for, rather than just talking about it and touting it around like a fucking piece of jewelry or some hall pass that you get to walk around the school with. This isn't a time for anything easy or anything fun, but this doesn't mean that the result won't be worth it. These times we all signed up for to be a part of as souls. This isn't something that, our ego consciousness consented to. No wonder right now our ego is being dissolved with all the Aquarian energy and all this detrimented, dissolving, war, conflict, political playground energy. This is not a time for us to be just, again, I hate to be a broken record, but singing Kumbaya and holding hands around a campfire. This is not that time. Obviously, that is important. Obviously, sacred joy is absolutely necessary, and that is a form of rebellion in and of itself. So please do find your joy still, but do not bypass all of what is happening for sake of finding said joy in the name of regulating, so that way you can show up better. You can still regulate and find joy and regulate with the joy to show up better, but do not bypass your experience or bypass what you need to do to show up in the world simply because you still want to stay floating around in that Neptunian, Pisces, dreamy, lack of boundaries and consequence energy. This is not a time where your actions will not have a consequence. And if you think you are, Sag, Pisces, you are sorely mistaken, because Jupiter is still retrograde. So good fucking luck, Pisces and Sag, when you think you have no consequences for the things that you do because you're bigger than life. Sorry, your planet is retrograde, and a lot of things are happening to aspect said planet going into 2026, which we will get to. But with that being said, we also, following shortly after this new lunar new year, we have this new moon in Aquarius, the annular solar eclipse, we then move into Virgo full moon total lunar eclipse on March 3rd. Now, you're like, wait a minute, we had an Aquarius eclipse and a Virgo eclipse. Why wouldn't we have a Pisces and a Virgo one? Because that's where the nodes are. Well, I'm very happy you asked, because this is a year in which we have the nodes shift, because they shift every year and a half. So it's not this super easy, super fun shift that happens when the nodes change signs. It literally, because this is the moon, it's emotional processing, it's unconscious, it governs our water bodies, it affects our physical molecular makeup because of how much water we have. It also governs intuition and the ability that we have to emotionally tune into that. So when the nodes shift signs, it completely shifts the collective frequency's ability to process emotion and listen to intuition. So when it moves from South Node Virgo, North Node Pisces, where it's like South Node is where we're trying to evolve from, but the things we've also mastered, and then the North Node is where we're evolving towards, but the things that we don't want to get stuck in all the time, so that we can actually balance out the gifts of the axis. So North Node right now in Pisces, that's people are evolving spiritually. People are stepping forward into their highest self. They're taking on the things that are more morally aligned with them. Versus South Node Virgo, it's routine, me, my body, my health, my communication, my mindset, my ideas, my work. And Pisces is kind of the opposite of that. It's all detached from that. It's kind of dissolving that. It's Jupiter and Neptune versus Mercury. So then we move from that watery, earthy energy into air and fire energy all over again, because we already previously had the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra for a while, from 2023 through some part of 2024. leading into the beginning of 2025, that energy was, or the end of 2024 going into 2025, that was when we had that like eclipse type shift away in the end of 2024, going away from Aries and Libra into Virgo and Pisces. And then here we are a year and a half later, and this is when we have that same kind of shift happening where there's two different axes being lit up by the eclipse energy. So the solar eclipse is happening in Aquarius because that is the sign that the North Node will move into from Pisces later this year. And then we have the lunar eclipse on the South Node in Virgo because that is the sign that it is exiting. So when it comes to the Virgo full moon, whatever you did 6 months ago during Virgo season, whatever seeds you were planting, whatever choices you made, I know personally I did a lot during Virgo season. I quit my day job. I got a passport. I started saving up for my travels. I started rebuilding my business and redeveloping my brand. About a month after that, I launched my podcast. Like, there was so much that was hyper condensed into the Virgo energy. And with the South Node being there, that was super supportive. And the new moon there, that was a great time to plant seeds. And here we are 6 months later. What did you reap? Like, I'm reaping the success of me having actually pursued the business 6 months ago instead of waiting around again to see if I had enough money to support it on the side. You know, I just went at it, and here we are. And, you know, I've also, when it comes to like my own personal life, with the intentions I've had in my own shadow work and healing and spiritual journey, aside from astrology and aside from, you know, work and daily life, this last 6 months has been like the most profound level of shadow healing I've experienced. I've processed a lot of things that have brought me truth because I have Virgo in my 9th house of higher truth, philosophy, spirituality, things like that. So for me, Virgo energy has been very supportive for me because then I have Sag in the 12th house, and that is another Jupiter on Jupiter energy. And then we have, you know, Virgo's in detriment technically in the 9th house in Sag because it's a Mercury sign in a Jupiter house. But for me personally, with the creation that it has, or the square by energy and the reciprocity it has between Sag's 12th house for me and Sag's 9th house with Virgo in it for me, this has really been about like making the spiritual wounds that I've been holding on to for however long really come to light and really alchemize themselves. And with it being Virgo energy in the 9th house, it's like me logically making sense and integrating these truths into my body in a way that allows for a routine to be created for me to actually follow. And that's something that I've still struggled with a lot of the, you know, Mercury retrograde that we had at the end of November going into the beginning of December. And then we also, with the different aspects that we've had to the nodes with the new and full moons that we've had over the last couple months, specifically with the Gemini full moon, the Sag new moon, the Cancer full moon, and the Capricorn new moon that we just recently had. Those 4 moons personally affected me with this Virgo energy super, super hard. So then whenever we come into this Virgo full moon, it's going to be lighting all of that up again. And with Jupiter in Cancer currently, that's mutual reciprocity between the moon and my Jupiter energies going on. So with a Virgo moon, you can see the triple reciprocity between Sagittarius energy, Virgo energy, and Cancer energy, the Jupiter-Mercury moon relation. So for me, this total lunar eclipse on March 3rd is definitely not going to be about, oh my God, awakening and spirituality. It's like, okay, you're going to integrate all the things that you've been learning spiritually over the 12 years that you have been spiritually conscious since the age of 12. This is now a time where that's culminating, and you are going to take from it what you need, and you're actually going to move forward into the next cycle with it. Now, for you, I'd encourage you to see obviously where you have Virgo in your chart to see what's happening for you, but that's just an example for me. Virgo full moon is not a time to be doing all the work. It's a time to realize the things that you have done and the work that you have integrated into them, and see how that has actually benefited you. See how you can take the ideas or the pieces and bits that actually worked from the time that you planted the seed 6 months ago with the Virgo new moon, what into the growing and the culmination to the full moon in Virgo grew, what was given life, what was nourished, what nurtured you, and what can you take from those things and move forward into the next 6 months as we wait for the next Virgo full moon, or the Virgo new moon, excuse me. Astrology can help us determine the complexities of human relationships in so many different ways, but one of the best ways is through synastry charts. These charts can help us to directly understand what is unfolding between two people in this lifetime and in lifetimes behind us or beyond us. Whether or not they're involved with each other romantically, platonically, ancestrally, professionally, or even otherwise, synastry is still going to be one of the easiest ways to discover the dynamics of different soul connections. And if you want to see what cosmic connection you have with a certain someone in your life or on your mind or in your heart, then head to the link in the description box or in the show notes below to book your synastry chart reading with me today. Now, back to Hummingbird Arcana. That being said, we then move with Uranus into Gemini again on April 26th. As we know, Uranus went into Gemini last year in 2025 for a short period of time before going retrograde and regressing right back into Taurus, where it currently is in its fall position, squaring Aquarius, its modern ruler. And holy shit, right now with Venus over there in Aquarius, the ruler of Taurus, making an energy square to Uranus retrograde, Aquarius's ruler, this is a mutual reciprocity that is kind of creating disaster, but at the same time inspiring so much healing and change. When Uranus then finally goes back into Gemini on April 26th during Taurus season, mind you, this is a time in which we finally get to, watch the earth heal a little bit more again, not in the sense that everything good is going to come from this transit, but Uranus in fall in Taurus retrograde squaring its ruler Aquarius while Venus is there is the literal corruption of fill in the blank organization, whether that's a government or a company or a person or a family member, like fill in the blank with whatever it is. That level of corruption's ability to harm the land and thusly our bodies and our futures. So climate change, crop pesticide type things, sewage water being used to water crops, people stealing land from indigenous, even though it was rightfully restored, fill in the blank with X contract. Like it is horrible things that are happening during the current Uranus retrograde in Taurus. That's energy squaring Aquarius with Venus there. But then when Uranus goes back into Gemini, this will trine Pluto in Aquarius, creating an advancement in AI. And that is still also harmful for the planet. So I definitely think, though, at the same time that during Uranus in Gemini, trining Pluto in Aquarius, this is also as much of a time for AI to kind of go even further and way too far yet again, that this is also a time where people are going to see that and call it out and do something about it, because Gemini is also about communications as much as it is about learning the facts and gathering all the information as much as you possibly can. Now, next, we will see Pluto go retrograde for the first time this year on June 16th. And Pluto retrograde is never fun, but this one is really going to be hard. I prefaced the beginning of this podcast episode with the fact that I wasn't trying to fearmonger or control or dictate anybody's free will. But specifically leading into June, July, and August, this is where it gets to be the hardest time of 2026, because we have some of the absolute most, I don't even know the right word for that in this moment, but it is volatile, I suppose, placements and aspects going on. But I don't want to, again, fearmonger or scare you. I'm just trying to prepare you with the information objectively that I have. And when I see a pattern, I will acknowledge it and I will share it. When Pluto goes retrograde, this is always a time in which not only do we see the powers that quote unquote be, or the quote unquote powers that be, not even the powers that quote unquote be, but just the powers that say that they have power, they tend to pull every stop possible to dig their heels into the ground and kick and scream and whine on their way out. I'm not saying that we are going to see a lot of victory for humanitarianism with Pluto retrograde. I'm saying we might see the start of it. we might actually see some progress being made, but not without more destruction happening first, because Pluto does also destroy anything it touches. Mars, you would think, is like the destroyer because of the war and the conflict, but it's not necessarily. It's just the wartime planet, really. And once it moves away from something, there's usually a lot more reformation and resolve and kind of like a calm stability that comes after the fact, because Mars will also do the work to repair what was destroyed. But when it comes to Pluto, this is like the death rebirth planet. It's not just destruction in the sense of destroying it to remake it out of the same things. This is destroying it, period, because it will no longer serve, and that cannot exist anymore. And that will die away and become the nutrient-rich soil for which we plant the seeds for something completely different to come from. And with Pluto being in fall in Aquarius, that is a debility. So I say this again, this is going to be a time where we watch the corrupt powers that be try to pull their absolute biggest ones yet, trying to hold on to that power and steal it from people yet again and continue to do so. But then that inspires or pulls the trigger for the biggest change yet. And even if it doesn't happen immediately, because Pluto is a generational planet, it takes a long time to move through stuff. Obviously, we will not see Pluto leave Aquarius until 2042. So we are going to be in a lot of these themes until that time. Goddess permit that we're still alive by then and we still have a planet. But with Pluto retrograde in Aquarius in its fall position, again, this is not a time where it's going to be easy. This is going to be a time where it inspires great catalytic change, and you have to show up for that if you feel called to. And if you don't, then find a way to support the people who do. So moving into the rest of June, this is where, again, this gets hard, because this is one of those World War II placements. This is something we saw during World War II, specifically right after Germany invaded Poland. And this is when we had Jupiter enter Leo. And this year, Jupiter enters Leo on June 30th, after Pluto goes retrograde on the 16th. And then a couple of days later, something else really bad happens. But yeah, so this is why I'm really concerned. And again, I'm trying not to fearmonger, and I'm sounding crazy because I'm trying not to go crazy a little bit with this one, because this one, really the one that follows it, scares me more. But this one is like setting the stage for that, and I'm like, what's coming? So Jupiter entering Leo. This is a time where people want to be seen for how good they are. Think of, like, I hate to use the example for the sake of like being that person, but like think about Glinda in Wicked. She loves the attention that pretending to be a good person gets her. She loves living in the lie that if she can lift people's spirits, that fascism is actually okay. Like, despite how you feel about it, it's still okay to live through because you care about how other people feel. That's not fucking true. And so what did we see a lot of during World War II? We saw a lot of different countries playing savior, trying to put on propaganda as if they were the safest or the most loving and their way was the right way, and that all these other countries are scary and dark and horrific and don't listen to them. And yeah, that's a lot. There's a lot of different countries that were doing that, and specifically Germany. And take a look at what America is doing right now. So, and look at what America did during the time that Nazi Germany was happening. It played that whole Galinda card of like, look at me, look at how good I am. I'm fascist too, by systemic racism and oppression and indigenous genocide. But then I'm going to go over here and save these white people from genocide because I care more about those white people than I do about anybody else that I've hurt in the past. That's exactly what we're seeing happening again right now. So I'm not going to name any names, and I'm not going to say what I would love to in this moment. I would love to call out literally everything, but for sake of safety and also sake of anonymity, we already know what's going on in America. We already know what's happening over here. And it's the same things that we saw when Jupiter was in Leo during World War II. So I'm just going to leave that one there, because it's a lot. And actually, one more thing that I want to say about Jupiter and Leo, this is also a time where people are putting on the performance to show their personality rather than who they actually are. They're putting their ego first. They're putting pride first. They're putting vanity first. So we're going to see a lot of things around aesthetic start popping up more, things around things being visually appealing or attention grabbing. Really, shiny object syndrome is a really, really powerful thing with Jupiter and Leo. So this is going to be a time where all that glitters is going to seem gold, but it's not actually true. So be very careful during Jupiter and Leo, especially to my Leo friends and my Sag and Pisces friends. So be very, very, very careful. Now, this is where I want you to take a really deep breath. This is where I want you to sit in your nervous system right now and be as grounded as you possibly can. I want you to take a sip of water. I want you to be as present in your body as much as possible. When I say this transit, I don't want you to freak the fuck out, but it is the one that concerns me the most. So with that being said, on July 4th, yes, July 4th, Independence Day, quote unquote, for the United States, we have the same transit that we have had happen before during the Declaration of Independence signing with the Revolutionary War against Great Britain. So on the same day, on the 250-year anniversary of the country, we will have Mars conjunct Uranus in Gemini. And specifically for the US, this is happening in the 7th house, again, just like it did 250 years ago for the Declaration of Independence signing. And the 7th house is the house of open enemies, legal contracts, bindings, and partnerships. So, innovation and change being conjunct the planet of war and conflict. And then in the sign of Gemini, community and communications in the 7th house of open enemies, where Mars is in detriment by rulership. Oh, Jesus Christ. And then Mars in Gemini already is a shocker because that typically puts a jam on short form travel. So say goodbye to the train, say goodbye to your car, say goodbye to public bus transport, say goodbye to any form of short form travel as we know it. Either that's going to get a huge boom forward with Uranus being conjuncted, or it's going to get entirely wiped away because of the war that's happening. So I don't want to say, again, that this is the worst thing that is going to happen to you particularly. Look at your chart, see what's going on. Where are you in the world? Use your own discernment and your own common sense to determine what is best for you. I am not here to tell you what to do. I am here, again, giving you information for you to empower yourself with and for you to integrate. And if you need help integrating that, I am happy to help in a session, but I am not here to tell you what to do. So with Mars conjunct Uranus in Gemini, this happens again, July 4th, again, 250-year anniversary for the USA. This is a time where I'd say, if possible, if you're in the US still by this time, gear up. Gear the fuck up, because you're looking at a really, really powerful, transformative, not in a necessarily great way immediately time, because as much as those wars were horrible back then, they did grant way for something to happen in the future, whether it was good or bad. But this kind of war isn't necessarily going to create good or bad. This is up to the intention and the actions of the people. So do what you will with that. But following this, later on at the end of July, we finally see the nodes shift from Pisces and Virgo into Aquarius and Leo. So with the North Node in Aquarius, this is evolving towards humanitarianism, innovations, the future. This is technological changes. This is integrating a lot of technology into society. And South Node Leo, when Jupiter is already there, this is pride and vanity. And we already have Pluto with Aquarius, North Node energy. So this is a lot. This is not going to be an easy time. Pluto opposing Jupiter by energy rather than by direct degree. This is not a fun time. This is, again, like I said, pride and vanity versus moral code and ethics. So with the South Node in Leo, this is where we're comfortable. North Node in Aquarius, this is where we're uncomfortable. And Leo already wants to feel comfortable, and Aquarius already wants to feel uncomfortable. So this is kind of fitting, but it would be great if the nodes were flipped. If we get South Node in Aquarius and North Node in Leo, it would be a lot better, in my personal opinion. But we don't have that astrology right now. We have the exact opposite. So that's what we got to work with. With the nodes here in particular, this is not going to be a 1.5-year cycle that is going to be fun by any means. I mean, South Node and Leo, play, laughter, joy, drama, fun. It might be good for some people, depending on, again, where you have Leo in your chart, and Jupiter being there, it'll amplify and expand that. But at the same time, with all the different planetary aspects and conversations that are going on, it's not going to be the main theme. It's not going to be the focus. This is not a happy year for most people unless they're corrupt. So, or unless they're getting freedom from corruption. So on that spectrum, that's kind of where you're going to find joy right now, other than, connecting to whatever form of divinity you have, or whatever small things in your life bring you joy outside of your involvement in the world. So with that being said, then after this, we have the Leo new moon total solar eclipse on August 12th after the Lionsgate portal. Now, personally, I just reference the Lionsgate portal as like a time that people understand, rather than it being a true valid thing, because that doesn't exist in the ancient Kemetic texts or timelines or temples or practices or anything of the sort. Their zodiac was very different than tropical Western astrology, and they were for sure different than sidereal and Vedic astrology and Hellenistic astrology. So I'm not saying that the Lionsgate isn't valid. I'm saying that it wasn't ever historically accurate. So that's all I'm throwing out there on that. I'm not going to make any information or content on the Lionsgate, but I reference it because it's around the time when this happens. Leo new moon total solar eclipse is on August 12th, and with Jupiter already in that sign, this is expanding that energy even further. So it's amplifying the eclipse portal. It's giving it a lot of divine intervention and a lot of solar charge, with the sun being the ruler of Leo. This eclipse is going to be really hard on people's egos, because it's the axis of the ego and pride and vanity, along with authenticity and integrity. So this is not an easy time. This is not going to be one where you're going to be finding the best version of your identity. You might be finding the most morally up-to-date version of yourself. You might be finding the version of you that is actually showing up for what's happening in the world, and it being super intense on your ego, and you not having the ability to control the fact that you have to change in order to survive. And that really does suck, because Leo and Aquarius aren't going to hold your hands about the emotions. Leo's going to feel the emotions, and they're not going to hold your hand while they're feeling emotions. They're going to just be big and take up all the space, and where's me? That's kind of Leo energy. Not that they'll always be that way. They'll feel it, and then they'll get over it, and then they'll shut down a little bit. So, the sun isn't always shining on Earth. There's a nighttime too. So, it's kind of fitting with the Pluto energy in Aquarius. It's like the darker on the other side energy. So with the Leo new moon, this also will be following the Aquarius full moon. So I urge you that during this time, like, we won't have an Aquarius eclipse at the end of the year. We won't, because we're shifting nodes this year, and we won't have consistent sign eclipse season until 2027. And then even in 2028, we'll have another node shift. So it's not going to be consistent then. But this year in particular, when we have the Aquarius full moon right before that Leo new moon total solar eclipse, this is still lighting up the nodal axis, because by this point, the nodes have shifted, if that makes sense. So then we have Venus going retrograde in Scorpio on October 3rd. This is by no means good, in my opinion, because Venus is in detriment in Scorpio, and for her to go retrograde, this is quite the time. And at the same time, we have Pluto, the ruler of Scorpio, in Aquarius, and that is still somewhat like shadowy retrograde energy. It's such a slow moving planet that the retrograde will be over, but it'll still be in shadow position ready to station into direct towards the end of the year, but it's still shadow. So it's still in its kind of seemingly standstill energy. Nothing's moving, nothing's changing, nothing's being destroyed, but it feels like everything is dying at the same time because nothing's moving. So with Venus in that sign of Scorpio, the ruler of Pluto, in detriment and also retrograde, this could be a lot of the relationships that you thought were more foundational for the future of your life get destroyed or ripped away from you, or those relationships that were already destroyed and ripped away from you try to pull something else on you, whether it's good or bad, and rope you back into something energetically that you shouldn't be a part of. Because when Venus retrogrades in Scorpio, it will regress back back into Libra eventually, which is a sign of its domicile, its rulership, it's a dignity, so that's good. But at the same time, it'll still go direct and go right back into Scorpio after that. So this is going to be one of those back and forth periods, kind of similar to November of 2025 when we had Mercury retrograde with the Cazimi in Scorpio, and then it was in Sagittarius, and then back in Scorpio, Sagittarius, like detriment. There's a lot, but this is Venusian versus Mercurial. This is not about communication. This goes into feelings and relationships and physical body and material possessions and money and how you feel about who you are. Like, this is not going to be a fun time. So those are the absolute most big banger. Pay attention. Look at me. I am waving a flag and flashing a neon sign in your face type transits that we have going on in 2026. I am so sorry to anybody who is afraid. I'm also afraid. I'm sure a lot of us are afraid. There's a lot of really dark, disgusting, evil things happening in the world, and the astrology shows us the fact that we're not going to be escaping that anytime soon. So at the same time that we have all these transits happening, take what you can from the benevolent aspects of each of these planets and each of these signs and each of these houses that they affect you personally into, and take a look at the different conversations they're having with each other cosmically in your chart, and determine what would be the best for you to do despite whatever is happening around you. Even if you have no control over it, even if you have all the absolute most control over it, do what is best for you and do what is best for everyone that you love and care about around you, because you're not alone. You're not the only one in this. And if we do stand together, then there's more of a chance that we can survive this and live to tell about it than if we don't. So if you are interested in seeing what 2026 has in store for you personally, and you want to get your own personalized astrology chart reading, I will leave my information down below in the description box, as well as the show notes for all those different services. So that way you can look into what your unique cosmic blueprint has to say about 2026 for you. So if you enjoyed this episode of Hummingbird Arcana and you're watching on YouTube, let me know by liking the video, subscribing, turn on the post notification bell so you're notified every time a new episode or a new video comes out. And if you're listening on a streaming platform, then hi, hello, how are you? I would humbly implore you to rate the podcast, leave me a review, and in the comment section of that review, let me know what transit you're gearing up for the most in 2026, or let me know in the comment section down below on YouTube. Let me know if you're preparing for this at all, what your ideas are, if there's any other transits that I missed that you want me to talk about or address coming up soon. So with that being said, I will leave it here, but thank you for tuning into this episode of Hummingbird Arcana. I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to do so, and it is always my pleasure to assist in awakening you to your cosmic divinity. I'm Jo Hummingbird. I will see you in the next episode. Many blessings and take care, my friends.